Hi, and welcome to another episode of Worlds Collide, the podcast where I talk to people who moved abroad. I am your host, Viktoria, and I'm so excited that you're here today. So, today is kind of like a spooky story. Not really. It's just Halloween, but my story is not Halloween related. I wanted to have one. I was thinking of bringing you a Romania, Transylvania story, but unfortunately I couldn't find one, so I just put out my regular episode. And this is gonna be a French episode. It's a first timer too, so that's super cool. For some reason, didn't have somebody before who moved to France, so this is a first time. My guest is Rachel, and she's originally from Australia. But I don't want to take away the full story. I will let her tell her story herself. Yeah, and so here it is. Here is Rachel. Right, my guest today is Rachel. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Hi, Victoria. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Thank you for being here. So, tell me, where are you calling from?
I am coming from France.
France. Where in France?
We just bought a house last year, actually, in the countryside.
Nice
French countryside. It's lovely. It's about 45 minutes by train from Paris. So still connected, but definitely rural country town.
Okay, all right. And what brought you to France?
So this is actually my second time. The first time I just wanted to travel Europe. I'd never been to Europe, and so I got a working holiday visa, and the plan was to just travel and work, which is what I did. I ended up staying for 3 years.
Okay.
And then at the end of that, moved back to Australia for 2.5 years, and then I've since come back. I met a French guy just before I left.
Ooh la la!
Yeah,
I feel like I had to do it.
So French. Yeah. Now fiancé.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you. So yeah, we had a long distance relationship for 2.5 years.
Okay.
And then,
so you met him before you left to go back to Australia?
A couple of months. Like I think it was about 2.5, 3 months before. So I'd already set the ball in motion that I was moving back to Australia, ended my visa. Like it was all happening. I couldn't really stop it. And, you know, it was time. Like you have this feeling when you live abroad, when it's time to go back home or to move on somewhere else, that kind of thing.
So you were like, okay, this journey is coming to an end.
Exactly.
And were you like, okay, now I have to start my life in Australia and I have to figure out what I want to do? And
basically, I really didn't know. So I moved back in with my mom.
Oh, right. I mean, yeah, of course.
Yeah, you know, you don't have anywhere to go. What are you going to do? While I figured out what I wanted to do and where I wanted to live. And then, you know, this whirlwind romance turned into something bigger, and we just kind of came to a point where it's like, okay, well, someone needs to move now. And he got offered a full-time contract. So I was like, okay, it looks like I'm moving back to France.
Okay, so so many questions. So I don't know what questions to ask first. So when you moved back to Australia, where in Australia were you?
So it's this country town called Inverell. That's where I was born.
Okay.
It's the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
Geographically, it's the north of New South Wales.
Okay.
So I think it's about an hour and a half, I think, from the Queensland border.
Right.
And then it's 3.5 hours inland.
Oh, you're inland. Okay.
Yes.
So you're not
not near the beach.
Oh, by the
Everyone
beach.
assumes you're at the beach.
Yeah, of course. Yes. Yes, I was like, why did he not just move to Australia? You can live by the beach.
That's what the French people say. Why did you move from Australia to France?
Yeah, so was it ever a question?
We had originally thought that he would move out, but with visas and sponsorships and all of that, you know, it is a process to go through. And then when his company asked him if he wanted to have a full-time contract, obviously I work for myself, so it's much easier for me to move around, and it just made sense.
Okay, and then so you started applying for jobs in France?
No, so I work for myself. So I just started a company, a whole other thing in terms of administration. So yeah, I run my own web design business.
So, and this is how you could then move to France?
Exactly.
So you could just like, okay, I have my own business and I'm just gonna do my own business in France, and then they give you papers?
Yeah, so basically I had a business in Australia. So I had to
Uh-huh.
close the business in Australia
Of
and
course.
then basically open it up legally in France. But in terms of clientele, when you do web design, digital work, it's all
Doesn't
online.
matter.
So it doesn't matter. Yeah. My
Yeah.
clients are literally all over the world. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay, what is it called?
It's just my name, Rachel Taylor.
Okay, Rachel Taylor.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, while we're talking about it, not
Yeah.
just like, hey, let's throw it out there.
Let's add a little promo.
Yeah, exactly. So how long are you in France now?
So just over 5 years now. I literally picked up my renewal of my resident card last week.
Okay. So every 5 years you have to renew it, or?
Every 4 years, yeah. So the first year you're here on just a visa, and then you get your residence card. And it just depends. Some people only get a resident card for 1 year. Some people get a multi-year, 4-year, and then they just keep renewing until I think next one they might actually give me a 10-year one.
Okay, but also then you are married, so that should
by then,
anymore.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And so I also want to go back to the time when you were there on your work and travel visa. So what countries did you visit? Was it just France, or did you
No, I went everywhere. Yeah. And that's one of the things I love about France and Europe is it's so easy, particularly coming from Australia. We're an island, and we're far from everything.
Yeah.
Exactly. So not only does it take time to actually travel internally in Australia, domestically, but it takes a lot of time to travel internationally. And so that was essentially the idea behind it was, well, I can go to Italy for a long weekend and I can go to Spain for a long weekend. And, working for yourself, it can be a Monday through Thursday. It doesn't have to be on the weekend like if you had a job, basically.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of train travel around France.
Mm-hmm.
I did kind of like loops in different areas. I think I've seen a lot more of France than most French people, to be honest.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Ireland, Scotland, UK, Spain, Italy, Germany. Had a great trip to Oktoberfest, which was fun. Yeah. Cliched thing. I mean, Munich is actually a really beautiful city to visit. So, but yeah, it's fun.
Okay, so you went everywhere. Okay. I was in Australia on a work and travel visa like 20 years ago. And I met Australians there who said like, oh yeah, I want to go on a work and travel visa to Europe. And I was like, why?
Is there like, and I think that's for most people is like, because you've left your country, you have reasons for leaving. Exactly. You don't understand why people are going there.
Right, exactly. But I mean, also it's Australia is so new.
Yes.
Still, I mean, architectural wise, I would say, there's like more history in Europe. So I think that 100%. Was very interesting.
Well, and then, it's different, isn't it? With cathedrals and museums and just walking down the street, as you say, with architecture, it's completely different.
Yeah, exactly. You have other like important things in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have like other, I don't know.
Beaches and nature.
And Aboriginal art and
absolutely.
All this. Yes, that history from them. Yes, of course.
Correct.
The place where you are now, is this where your fiancé is from?
No, he's from Paris. He's a Parisian.
Okay.
Yeah, so originally we did live in Paris, just in the suburbs. If you speak to a regular Parisian, they'll say it's not Paris.
Yeah.
Anything outside the periphery is no, not Paris. Yeah. But the greater Paris area.
Got it.
But he actually works close to where we live now, so that kind of motivated the location of our move, yeah.
So how was then settling in for you? So did you fly in and then you moved in with him?
Basically.
Yeah.
There was no trial period or anything like that. Let's just
Right.
move straight in together. So we stayed with his mum while we looked for an apartment and then
Yeah.
found an apartment. And
How was living with mom?
good. It was good for my French, that's for sure.
Okay,
She
yes.
doesn't speak English, and we had a precedent when we first met. His English was better than my French, so we naturally spoke English from the
English.
start. And I think a lot of people who are in mixed country relationships have
Mm-hmm.
this. If they start with one language, it's very hard to change
Right, I can see
your,
that.
at home language,
Yes.
basically.
So you still speak English?
I try and speak a bit more. I do certainly have moments where I'm a bit lazy.
Yeah.
um, you know, and then I'll have another, go through a phase of like, no, I need to speak French now. Let's start speaking more and more French. So
Mm-hmm.
comes and goes in waves.
Yeah. And your French is now okay?
It's not too bad. I'll have days where I watch a movie without subtitles, or I'll go to the shops, or I'll speak to someone on the phone, which is the hardest part.
Uh-huh.
And I'll understand everything. We'll have a conversation. Everything is fabulous. And then the next day I'll speak to someone and I have no idea what they say.
Okay.
So it's like
Yeah,
you feel like you're making progress and then you feel like you're going backwards.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and going back to when you started.
Mm-hmm.
So first you lived with his mother,
Mm-hmm.
and then you found an apartment together?
Yes.
'Cause you've been there already before, but then living there, was it much different?
Yeah, I think living in any place is different to visiting, even if you're visiting long term, a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anything that's long term, because I think you have this mindset too of like you've moved somewhere, you're not holidaying,
Mm-hmm.
and so you think about things differently because it's now your home.
Yeah. What was for you hard to get used to?
The first time around, everything was hard. I think
Okay.
over time, I mean, administration, I think Steph mentioned this with Germany as well, is like administration, I think most places in Europe is baked in tradition and
Right.
they
Yes.
love paperwork, and the more paper, the better, and the more appointments, the better.
Yeah, they just
um,
want to create work, I guess.
exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
my first experience was getting my first carte de séjour, so my resident card. You would make an appointment. So
Mm-hmm.
you would go to the prefecture, and it turns out that that appointment is actually just to make your appointment to bring your papers. It's not a real
This
appointment.
is
Like it's.
so
I was like,
frustrating.
this just seems totally pointless to me. Like so inefficient.
This is
Yeah,
like such a waste of time for everyone.
100%. So then you go back for your next appointment to bring your paperwork, and then you have another appointment to pick up your card. However, with the pandemic, it actually mixed things up. And to be honest, I
Okay.
don't know that much would have changed without the pandemic.
Mm,
And so this time around, I sent my paperwork by post and I had one appointment to pick up the card. That was it.
okay, that was it. Okay.
So
Much
much
better.
better. Yeah.
Much better.
I mean, it's just time wasting for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, like in Germany, I was thinking like visiting after the pandemic. I was so surprised that they take so many card payments
Yeah.
now, because before it was just cash, like, or like if you pay with card, debit cards are accepted, but no credit cards are accepted. And I don't know, minimum payment of 10 euros. It was always very complicated. And now,
It's evolved.
it's bad to say, but good that we had the pandemic,
Yeah,
for
I
these
mean, I
reasons.
obviously, there's a lot of bad side to the
Yeah,
pandemic.
100%.
Yeah.
But like all this bureaucracy,
Yeah.
like
In
old-fashioned
terms of
stuff.
mixing up industries that are very ingrained in tradition, like
Yeah.
medical, law, all of that, I mean, now you can do online calls with your doctor. And like, hands down, that would not have been possible without the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, French people would have just said, no, like, you can't see your doctor online. That, no.
Oh, but it's funny here. Still, not all doctors, but some doctors, they now went back to like, if you want to have an appointment with the doctor, we're not doing viral appointments.
I mean, I understand, like, particularly with medical, it's an industry that, you know, sometimes you have to go and see the doctor.
Yeah.
I get that. But if it's a follow-up, you're just getting results, you're having a discussion.
Right.
Like, I said, there is a place for it, I think. And you know, I like what you mentioned, that Australia is a young country, but it's very technologically forward. And I think that's one of the differences that I have seen is, you know, and my frustrations, I guess, is that things are easy in Australia because they've been set up in a way that embraces technology and new things.
Right.
Whereas French is ingrained in tradition, and just because it's more efficient to do it another way, we're not going to change it because this is how we've always done it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that does become frustrating when you know it can be done faster or more efficiently, or you know, whatever the outcome is.
Yeah. So it was a little bit for you like traveling back in time.
Yeah, a little bit.
And other things that were like, let's ask you, like, what were your expectations like? I'm not sure if I can really ask that questions because you were there before, but maybe in the first round.
To be honest, I don't think I had a lot of expectations. I mean, as I said, I've never been to Europe. I had pretty much only traveled to Asia and America prior. I mean, you read guidebooks and you do your research and all of that kind of thing, but I think it is better just to kind of like, I mean, I just dove in the deep end. I just rocked up. I did French at school thinking that I'd be fine. I was like,
right.
This isn't hopeless.
This is not working.
You cannot communicate with people. So, I mean, there was a lot of mess at the start, which I think is normal. You know, it's different. It's also kind of like a honeymoon period, really, isn't it? When you arrive and everything's shiny and everything's exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
Where am I going to travel to and all of that kind of stuff.
Oh, look at this. Oh, that. Yeah. Look at that food.
Everything is amazing and you've got a million photos. Yeah.
I mean, like, your cliche, was it also now? I mean, do you eat like croissants all the time? And do you eat like French cheese all the time?
I mean, we eat cheese all the time.
Yeah.
I do love cheese. I do love food. So I'm in the right country for a food
Yes.
lover. I mean, we pretty much eat cheese after every meal.
Okay.
That's normal. You have your meal, you have your cheese, you have your dessert. I probably don't eat croissants that often. Because I mean, if you want a croissant, you have to go to the bakery and buy it fresh. You don't want to have it sitting on the bench for several days. Exactly.
Yeah, no, of course. You have to buy it fresh.
Yeah.
Is it normal? I mean, do they really eat cheese after each meal?
Yep. I mean, one of the surprising things I found, which is quite different to Australia, is, I mean, we have this culture of eat as fast as you can for lunch and get back to your desk as quick as you can, or eat your lunch at your desk even.
Right, okay.
Whereas in France, like at Clem's company, they eat lunch together as a team, and it's usually at least 45 minutes, an hour.
Yeah.
It's a 2-course meal. It's, you know, you take your time, you enjoy it, you're not being rushed. It's not just, oh, well, I need to eat because I'm hungry and it's just a blip in the day. Like, it's actually, I think a lot of that, you know, family gatherings and things like that, like, all around revolves around this meal time and preparing it and taking your time and enjoying it.
Yeah, but did you adapt to this because your work for yourself?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I take like a 2-hour lunch break almost every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but was it like hard for you to adjust to it? Because maybe
no.
like no,
not like, at all.
Like in your roots, you're like, oh, I have to do it fast.
No, I think because you're in another place, it's much easier to do a reset. Whereas if I was in Australia trying to change my behavior, I think it would be more difficult.
Oh, and then everybody was like, what is she doing? Why is she rushing? So slow? Yes.
Take your time.
Okay.
Enjoy your food, digest how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. What about your making friends when you got there the second time?
Making friends as an adult is a bit of a challenge.
Oh my God, it is a challenge. Yes.
It's I think it's one of the shared challenges of, moving town, moving country, whatever
Yeah,
that
it is.
is. I mean, when you're a kid, you just go up to someone and you say, "Oh, will you be my friend? Do you want
I
to play?"
know.
Like, it's so easy. There's
Yes.
nothing in the way.
And also you're in
Um,
school, you're like in a classroom, there are already like 20 other kids surrounded by you. They all want to have friends. So it is
exactly.
really
Like, it's just
yes.
there's no barrier.
Yes.
And I think, like, when you're an adult, also you go to work, you're with that group of people. You go to university, you're with that group of people. So you kind of, have those groups around you, make it a little bit easier. But when you're in a country that doesn't speak your native language and you work for yourself, you really actually have to make an effort to go
Mm-hmm.
out and be with people,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
So I did have a few friends who were still in Paris from when I was here the first time. My old
Okay.
flatmate, for example.
Were they also
Um,
backpackers?
no, she was from Ireland. She was doing a internship. She's a
Ah,
cardiologist. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And I'm the kind of person that also becomes friends with my clients as well. So I've got a few people who are
Okay.
clients who've become friends or
Right, but
um
then they're far away because you just said your clients are everywhere.
oh, I have some who are in France. So
Okay, that's good
yeah.
then. At
Yeah.
least in the same country, yes. Uh-huh.
Exactly. But since moving to the country, that's kind of been my challenge, because Paris, you have meetups, you have organized things, you have networking groups. There's so much you can do and go to.
Right,
There
uh-huh.
really is no excuse to not make friends unless you're like a
Mhm.
massive introvert.
Yeah.
Um, but moving to the country, there's less of that. And so
Mhm.
I've have had to go searching. So like I joined a dance class to meet some new
Okay.
people.
Sure.
Started making friends with like my fiance's colleagues and that kind of thing. So I'm starting, but it takes time. As an adult, it definitely takes time.
Yeah, but you're also still new at the place. When did you move there?
A year ago,
Okay, yeah, that's still fresh.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that is hard.
yeah.
Um, and how big is the place?
Population, think it's like 5,000.
Oh, so it's small.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
small.
So I also imagine that there are not a lot of people from somewhere else.
No.
So,
Occasionally in a restaurant, I'll hear people speaking English
uh-huh.
and I'll try and listen to their
Yes.
accent to know where they're from.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very rare to have foreigners.
So everybody already knows that you are the one from Australia.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, you're
Um,
famous.
I have a dog, and so I walk her we have a forest behind our house. So
Uh-huh.
I walk her in there, and then obviously you meet other dog owners and they love to chat. And the first thing they'll say is like, "Oh, you have a cute accent. Where are you from?"
Uh-huh.
So then they'll be like, "Oh, I know someone who's from America or the UK or occasionally from Australia." But yeah.
Did you meet many people from Australia?
No, actually. A couple here and there. I did try to avoid Australia only kind of events and things like that
Right,
because I
right,
knew if I got into the habit of just hanging out with Australians, I'd never integrate properly into France.
right.
And I think that is important to have in your mind that, I mean, I lived with two Irish girls when I first moved to Paris. So, we were
Uh-huh.
speaking English. It was a very Anglo kind of environment we were always in, which, 100% limited my progress in French.
Yeah.
You need to be speaking French to be able to
Yeah,
make
but I
progress.
mean, when you're a traveler, you also kind of want to have
You
fun.
want
And
something
you were not planning on
familiar.
like staying
Yeah.
there for a long time.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's the thing is like the first mindset of like, well, this is a temporary, I'm traveling, I'm just enjoying myself, this is great, to, well, no, I'm relocating, we're starting a life. It's very
Yeah,
different.
exactly.
Yeah.
But so since you are there, did you go sometimes to these Australian events?
Occasionally. So sometimes they hold events at the embassy.
So very official. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it is. And there are a lot of corporate more corporate type people who would go to that.
Yeah. I was like thinking like some, I don't know, like a rugby watching in a boomerang cafe or something, you know?
I have been to one of the, I think it's the Aussie cafe. What's it called? I can't remember the name of it. I went once and it was terrible.
Like
I never went
cafe,
again.
like something super cliche. Yeah.
Friends of ours, he plays Australian football actually. So he actually knows a lot of Australian guys.
Got it. Yes.
But it's never coordinated that when they've gone for drinks that we've been available. Yeah. So.
But is there anything that you miss from Australia?
I mean, obviously family and friends.
Yeah.
I think that's a guaranteed one. Mostly, I think I've adapted now that I kind of got to a point where I really want something that was Australian, and then I'd miss it a lot, rather than now it's like, oh, well, I'll just find a French equivalent or close enough, and
I see.
You kind of lessen the missing.
Yeah.
But every now and then I'll be craving a certain food or something that's just not available here. Yeah.
Like what?
So when I was back recently, I bought it's terrible. So we have little cans of spaghetti. I don't know. It's so terrible. Like it's awful. But I was like, I can't get it. I'm like, sometimes you just want crappy food.
Okay, yeah, okay. Cans of spaghetti, like super soggy.
So it's in tomato. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah, it's
I
for
think
kids,
we have
basically.
that in Germany. I mean, I for sure know the ravioli in tomato sauce.
So you can get at our supermarket baked beans. Which is basically beans but in tomato sauce. So the same kind of thing. And the same brand makes the spaghetti version, and I don't like baked beans, so I've never been able to get it here.
I see. Yeah.
And I think so we have in our international aisle, they have certain UK and US products.
Yeah.
So I can buy peanut butter, for example, things like that. But there's those certain things, or another horrible one is like Shapes biscuits. I mean, they're just flavored crackers, basically. But they come in like chicken crimpies and pizza shapes, basically, and the two winners. But there's nothing equivalent, and I think that those are the things I miss if I can't find something similar.
Okay, and in Australia, no, in France, so do you find like the typically Australian items though, like?
Yeah, I've been surprised. So they sell. I don't like Vegemite.
Oh, Vegemite, that's it. Marmite is the English one, right?
One of the few Australians who does not like Vegemite.
And I don't know, Tim Tams. I know because like here we have this store. It's called World Market, and they have like a section or they have like foods. Like specialty foods from everywhere.
Yeah.
So like they always have like Tim Tams.
Yeah. I was in a French supermarket one day and I saw Tim Tams on the shelf. I was like, oh, this is amazing. And if I'm in Australia, like it's not like I'm eating Tim Tams every week. But I guess it's it reminisces and it gives you that link to your home country.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other one is recently we've been able to buy pavlova bases.
What is that?
Which is like a meringue. So the French people, they make pavlovas. If you go to a restaurant, you can usually sometimes get a pavlova. But the way they make the meringue is just a traditional French meringue. A pavlova meringue is a lot softer in the middle. So it's crunchy on the outside, but it's really soft and fluffy in the middle. And I've never had one at a French restaurant that was the true pavlova meringue. But we walked in a supermarket one day and they had pavlova bases and it was exactly correct.
Okay.
So I made pavlova that Christmas for dessert and everyone was like, wow, this is amazing.
Nice. No, yeah. I heard the name, but I wasn't sure what it was.
We have a rival with New Zealand. They also claim it's their dish. So
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
I already talked what your expectations were. But how was it then when you arrived, when you finally like had your own place, and how was it transferring the business? Was it like the clients were already there, or?
So that was my number one concern. So when I'm from the country, but I lived in Sydney prior to moving. And so I had my own clients as well as doing freelance work through an agency. So basically, if a designer calls in sick or is going on holidays, then I would go into that business and fill in for them, basically. And I had like regular ones that they would call up and say, oh, well, our design's going away. Can we book Rachel for this time period? And so that was obviously disappearing completely. And that was my concern, that I couldn't replace that. But one of the great things that actually has happened is when I was in Australia, probably 90% of my clients were Australian or Australians abroad. Once I moved to France, I started getting US clients, German clients, UK clients. Right. I think because I was working with Australian clients from another country, it was easier for people to see that that wasn't an issue. You didn't have to be locally located, even time zone or that kind of thing.
Yes. And I mean, you probably also communicate with emails.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I do love having video calls because I like to feel like I've met the person.
Yeah.
And I think Europe is really well placed.
That is totally fine.
Like, you know, exactly. Like, I'll be in the afternoon, I'll have calls in the US. In the morning, I have calls with Australia. And
that works.
It works really well for both. Exactly. Yeah.
But like, what is the time difference for you now to Australia, to your family?
So currently they are 10 hours ahead.
10 hours.
Yeah.
Is that really convenient, or is this a problem? I mean, convenient.
Is it 10 or is it 8? I can never remember which way it goes. So in one season it's 10 and the other season it's 8, basically.
Yeah.
Which when it must be 8 now. Yes, because when it's summer here, it's a little bit easier to have calls with people because it's only 6 p.m. for them rather than 8 p.m. Yeah.
It's crazy that then it changes for 2 hours, you know?
Yeah.
Just like
well, there's that messy middle bit because we don't change time at the same day either. So there'll be a week or two where there's 9 hours difference. And
that's so weird.
If I've made an appointment ahead of time and it happens to fall in that week or two, I have to really think about, is this the right time or has it changed or like coordinated again?
This is so complicated.
Yeah.
Does your family visit you a lot?
No, they haven't visited yet. So if they're listening, they should book a ticket.
Yes, book a ticket.
Yeah, please. I have traditionally gone back almost once a year.
Okay.
Up until COVID. And then I just went back this Christmas. It was my first time since the pandemic. But I mean, it's a long way.
It is a long way.
Not going to lie.
Yes. And when you're getting older, a 15-hour flight or a 20-hour flight doesn't get easier.
The last time. And I mean, because I don't live in Sydney either, you
have to drive.
It's even further. So basically I usually fly with Emirates because you do get a little bit more leg room. Once you've flown a lot of places, you start to learn, okay, I prefer this airline because of this reason.
Yeah, okay.
And so I'll fly through Dubai basically. So it's Paris, Dubai, Sydney, and then Sydney, Armadale, and then have to drive from Armadale to Inverell. And I think my last trip was like 38 hours.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is long.
Yeah. And then you just basically sleep the entire next day to catch up on normalness.
And then you deal with the jet lag.
Yep.
And then you basically have to go back.
Basically, yeah. I mean, luckily, you know, as I am self-employed, I can just move along and it's okay. So I'll usually stay for 4 or 5 weeks. I don't think I would ever go just for a week. Like, it would just be too much.
That is crazy because then you're in the plane already for 4 days.
Exactly, yeah. Like half of your trip is on the plane. I have learnt that flying in so that I land basically towards the evening is good because then I can literally have a shower and just go to bed, and then I sleep the entire night. And that does help with jet lag. I found like you recover a lot quicker.
Yeah,
for sure.
Was it ever like weird for you that the seasons changed?
It's more kind of annoying when you catch the plane and you have this big coat on and your track pants and all your warm stuff.
Right.
And then you have to have an empty carry-on suitcase to put all of that in it because you're going to take it all off because it's going to be so hot when you arrive. Because generally I'm going to Australia for their summer. Right. So I'm always like leaving winter, going in. You know, the reverse is like you're wearing shorts at the airport with your flip-flops, and then you're like, okay, well, I'll get changed at this airport to add an extra layer, and then I'll get changed there to add another layer, and kind of work out the clothing situation in terms of arriving to the right weather. Takes coordination.
But was it okay? But you are used to having Christmas in summer. And everybody I asked, like, who is like from the northern hemisphere moving then to the southern hemisphere, they say like I'd never get used to it.
Yeah,
because
it spins people out.
Yeah,
because, and I think for them it's weird too, because like all our Christmas songs are the same as everybody else's. They talk about snow,
exactly,
and, you know, white Christmases and all of this kind of thing. You know, and we still
Santa
have
Claus
a pine tree.
Is wearing a coat.
Santa Claus is way overdressed. You know, I mean, we will have a cooked ham or a turkey like hot, or you'll cook it the day before and then eat it cold, basically. So there are certain changes, like, you know, traditionally we'll eat prawns as like the entree. I don't think you would do that in France. We don't have a barbecue or anything like that. Yeah, it's hot.
Yeah, it's hot, exactly. So I was just wondering if it was easier for you to get used to the winter version.
Yeah, I love it. Like, I feel like Christmas is magical if it snows, or, you know, you're rugged up, you're at the Christmas markets. It's all like, it has this magicalness about it.
Yeah, like for me, it's always having the Christmas in like a really messy season. Like usually it's gray, and I mean, sure, like sometimes it snows, but usually it's like just wet and rainy, and maybe it's snowing, but it's more like sludge. So like it helps, like if you have like a nice Christmas season, Christmas markets, you know, it's like sweetens up the messy time.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Because I mean, and then usually it doesn't actually snow. It's never snowed in Paris for Christmas. It's always January, like it's always later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I've never actually had a white Christmas, but it's that feeling, isn't it? It's like you've got your coat and your beanie on, and you're having, you know, hot chocolate or glühwein, and it's just, I guess it just feels Christmassy. So I can understand why people are completely shocked by the fact that it's summer.
Yeah. And do you have like another favorite holiday in France?
I mean, summer's always nice. I think that's quite good because, like, in Australia, summer is Christmas and New Year's, right? So it's one big break for the year.
Yeah.
Whereas in Europe, you have Christmas festive season, but then you also have summer break.
Yeah.
Halfway through the year, so you kind of break up your year twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Bastille. Oh, actually, probably less Bastille Day because there's like so many people around and stuff. But Fête de la Musique, I've always really enjoyed. I was like, what is this? It's amazing.
Yeah, tell me about it. What is it?
So it's on the first day of summer, the summer solstice, 21st of June. Basically, everywhere in France has an open music concert.
Oh,
it's
nice.
Like free music put on by the town. I mean, the one in Paris is fantastic. Like they have
massive,
proper artists.
Yeah.
And like I couldn't believe like it's all free and it's all like it's just available. I mean, it's in front of Hôtel de Ville, which is like got a big place area, so it's like right near the Seine. Like it's very tourist cool kind of like place to be. And I originally had thought it was a Paris thing. And then when I traveled to Lyon, the guy's like, oh, I'll be out because Fête de la Musique is on. I was like, oh, like this is an everywhere thing. He's like, yeah, like basically all of France does it. That was one thing that actually I had to get used to, is the seasons start around the solstices in France. I think it's all in Europe actually. Whereas where in Australia it's the first of the month.
See, I did not know that.
Yeah, so the 1st of September is the start of spring. Whereas everything is like the 21st or the 19th, I think, in March.
22nd.
Like it changes. Yeah. It's not the same day.
I mean, I know it's for summer and winter, but I'm not sure in spring and
I think it does change because it's all based on moon cycles. So I think December and June always land on the 21st.
21st, yes.
But in between that can be a slight difference.
I have no idea.
I was like, oh, this is super interesting.
Okay, but that music festival, that sounds really fantastic.
Yeah, it's super fun.
That's awesome. And what about like cultural differences that was hard for you to, or was like a big difference to you and it's harder for you to get used to?
I think in most cases, like day to day, my life is pretty similar. So there's no massive, I don't think there's anything like, I mean, Christmas obviously is an adjustment and, it's a whole long affair. You come at 11 and lunch goes until like 6 p.m. or something. Like it's a whole thing.
And behavior wise,
I mean, like Australians think French people are super rude.
Exactly, they're rude.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry French.
But like this is what, and I've not actually had that experience. Like when I first came here, like everyone was super kind, super nice, really helpful. They can see you're struggling. I'll switch to English. It's like it's a myth. But then, I mean, every country has mean people. I don't think it's a cultural thing. I think really French people are direct.
I guess it's like
and it can be construed as rude. But actually, like, there is actually very little malice in what they're saying. It's just they'll just say something and they don't see why it would be hurtful because there's nothing
they say
wrong with it.
How it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. They don't like put like a cushion around it.
Yeah.
I always like the French. I always get along with them really well. So I don't think personally they are rude, but also, I mean, my German culture also has a reputation of being rude.
Yeah.
But I guess also like sarcasm, is it?
Yeah.
As it's not really, I don't know, a thing in Australia maybe?
Oh, I'd say probably there's more sarcasm in Australia than France.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. I think because we have a culture of like, I would say picking on, but it's not really like picking on. It's like you kind of mess with your mate. And if somebody else were observing that, they'd be like, well, that's quite rude or that's mean or you would say like the opposite of something, what it is, like it's sarcasm basically.
Yeah, okay.
Whereas I think because French have that directness, like you don't need to just skirt around anything. Like you just say how it is, and that's it.
I mean, you just said they never were rude to you, but was it like maybe harder for you to get to that or understand that directness?
Yeah, in the beginning, you take things personally.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you're still adjusting. So your threshold for things is a lot lower.
Yeah.
But once I learned, like going to the prefecture, for example, I went once and they'd lost my file.
Oh, yeah.
And so I left. I was like, well, there's nothing they can do. And then I ended up going somewhere else and then go back and then I ended up back there. And then I was like, you need to find the file because this is where I came and this is where the file is. Anyways, he went back at the back and he found it.
Okay.
It's like, you caused me so much stress when I was here the whole time. And the same of like, I've learned that no doesn't mean no in France. Which, like, 100 disclaimer, like from a consent perspective, that's not what I mean at all.
No, that's not what you mean. Yes.
No. But if you say, do I need the blue form? And they say no. And then the next time you come, they're like, well, where's the blue form? I was like, well, you told me I didn't need it. So you just over prepare for everything. You bring, even if they said don't bring it, you bring it. Or if they say, no, I can't make an appointment for you.
But you can make an appointment then.
It means you come back tomorrow and they will make an appointment for you. It's just they were having a bad day or they just didn't feel like it.
Okay, it's just because no, it's just what they say to everything.
Yeah, it's like, no, I can't be bothered dealing with this right now. I'm just going to say no.
Yeah.
And when it's the thing standing between you and getting whatever the thing is you need, like that's a problem. And then you don't know what to do because the administration person said no, so therefore it must be a no.
Yeah. Would you say like all this administrative and bureaucracy thing is the biggest struggle, or is there anything else?
I mean, because it is so involved, I think yes, and because I've had to do it for residency as well as my business.
Yeah.
I think like, you know, when you're a true expatriate on an expatriate contract, things like that, you have help to do those things. So I think, you know, being on your own to do it yourself and all of that does add a level of difficulty. Yeah, I mean, that's probably that and the language barrier. I mean, it's
yeah.
It's hard when you're an intelligent person. You can have proper conversations like an adult, not a 5-year-old in English.
Yes.
Or you can get things done. And then when you try to do it in another language, you just can't get there. And it's like super frustrating because you're like, normally I can do this. This is not me. It's just the way I can't communicate it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what I wanted to ask you. So when it comes to you and your partner, was there ever like things when you were not on one level because it was a cultural difference?
Not really. I think the most common one is like misunderstanding each other. If he said something and I thought I understood, that becomes a problem. And then you'll go do a thing and it's like, that's not what I said. I was like, oh, really? Okay.
Okay.
And I mean, it's all language, isn't it? It's using the right words.
But is it when he speaks English or when you speak
French? It's a bit of both.
Both, okay.
Yeah. It's sometimes I'll say something in English and he'll be like, I have no idea what that is. Like... And then I don't know whether it's because we have Australian words that are only Australian. And I wasn't aware of all of them. Like I know some of them.
Yeah.
Particularly to the US, but from UK to Australia.
Sure. And he learned British English? And
I think in school they learn British English, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, there's like doona, for example, is a duvet, a quilt. And no one except Australia says doona. And even like to my Irish friend, I've said like, oh, like, have you washed your doona cover? She's like, what? What is that? I'm like, oh, what's it called? It's duvet.
Duvet, yeah. I know duvet, yeah. But doona, never heard of it.
Yeah. So that also makes me aware of like words that we say in Australia that nobody else says.
Well, okay, it's fine. You're so far away, you can have your own words.
Yeah. It's funny because he quite often travels for work and he'll do trainings or conferences and stuff with people from around the world. And he quite often gets told that he has an Australian accent when he speaks English. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is quite funny. Yeah. Because I can't hear it. Like I still hear his French accent.
Yeah.
But as someone from the UK or the US, they can obviously hear the difference between their
your
accent.
Influence.
Yeah.
So okay, it's mostly language.
Yeah. I mean, neither of us are really conflict type people. We don't really have and I think I got over a lot of things like that in the first round. So he kind of got a better version of me. You need to have patience. And he does have a lot of patience.
Okay.
My previous French person didn't have as much. And so, you know, going through all of the emotions of not being able to complete a form or something, or not being able to speak to someone on the phone about something, and then trying to find a solution and them not being able to help you. And that kind of created this whole thing. Whereas he's very helpful. Like if I ask him for help, he does encourage me to do it myself, and then he'll check it so that I'm learning, which is, great for me.
Yeah.
But knowing that I have somebody that I can ask is actually like a really good thing for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're both pretty easygoing. We're just like no major. I think because France is not enormously different to Australia.
Yeah, I think probably. I mean, the cultures still have kind of the same roots.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, okay, you said you bought a house, but would you ever consider moving to Australia?
I mean, absolutely. Like, it's definitely a maybe. We actually thought we might live in New Zealand at one point because we both really loved it when we traveled. But again, it's kind of like it's not right now, so it's not in the top of my mind.
Yeah. But you wouldn't say like, no, absolutely not. I want to stay here forever. This is my forever home.
It's like we just happy to go with whatever comes around at the time, and if we get to a point where it's like, actually we've had enough, let's go somewhere else. Like we're both open to that.
Yeah. All right, I guess I get all my questions.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah, and that was Rachel from outside of Paris. I will put out her information in the show notes so you can find her business. Also, I wanted to tell you something exciting. I have another podcast. It's a travel podcast for families. It's called Trips with Kids. And you can find it also wherever you listen to episodes. And I will put the link in the show notes. If that is something that interests you, then please tune in for some travel adventures and travel tips, or places where I've been to with my family, what I recommend, and what I would do different next time. And then, of course, don't forget to push the follow button in the corner of your app if you haven't done so already, to follow this podcast and never miss an episode. And also, if you want, or if you do me the favor, you can give the podcast a 5-star rating wherever you listen to this podcast. Of course, only if you like it. All right, and that was it from this week. I hope you liked it, and I hope you tune in again for the next episode next week. Until then, bye.